I first started wearing Westwood when I was about 15, 14, and I had a boyfriend at the time who was really into Westwood, who was quite a bit older than me, and he had a lot more money than me too. And he actually got me interested, and it was back in the days with all the squiggle stuff, the pirate collection and blah, blah, blah. And that kind of like got me interested, and I could never afford anything. And we'd come down to London at weekends and things, and he'd always buy things, and I'd be like, you know, I haven't got any money. I know. And I think it was the first sort of aspirational thing that I came into contact with as a youth. And when I did have more money and could start, you know, treating myself and things, it was always the first thing I ever bought. And I just kind of fell in love with it. You know, for a long time it was fantastic.
Don't you ever stop being dandy, showing me you're handsome. Don't you ever stop being dandy, showing me you're handsome.
I mean, I wore her when she was kind of unfashionable, and you know, there was a time where no club kid would be seen dead in Westwood, and now everyone's got it back on. Well, one of the first things that I ever bought was the suit that I'm wearing now. One of the first big things, I've got like socks and squiggle tops and things like that. But when I first came to London, there used to be a shop in South Molton Street, which was, I can't remember what it was called. It was a shop where a lot of the designers would put their things that they couldn't sell, or, you know, odds and sods, and make a few quid on them. And at the time, I was working in Boots, and I used to go in this shop all the time and crave things really badly. And then in those days, I was really obsessed with clothes, much so, more so than now. And this suit was in there for about 3 months. And I think it was only something like, I think it was £120 or something, and reduced from 800 or something like that, which in those days was a lot. And I used to steal money from Boots every day, and it went into a fund, and the fund was this suit, and I eventually got it, and I wore it to death. Everywhere, you know, people just say, oh, you've got it on again then. But it holds very fond memories for me, this suit.
Don't you ever stop being dandy, showing me you're handsome. Prince Charming, ridiculous, nothing to be scared of. Don't you ever?
I liked a lot of the collections from about 1990 to 95, 6. I thought they were really interesting collections, and I think they were the collections where she actually got good. You know, she was great doing the pirates and buffalo and witches and da-da-da, but she actually, her skills, I think, really came out more a little bit later. This is only an Anglomania, a little Anglomania jacket. I don't even know when it was from. I think it was about 10 years ago, maybe. I never saw it. I only ever saw one of them. Never saw any. You know, I've never seen anyone wear it or anything. And it's kind of like very boring shape. It's a little poncho with a big collar. But the thing I like about it is the lining. And I know you shouldn't really like something with a lining, but I like things for things like that. And it's got the most disgusting orgy print lining of people having sex with animals. And I tried wearing it once the other way around, but obviously the labels were sticking out. But you can get little glimpses of it, of like the people having sex and things when you roll the collar back. And I just used to like wearing it just to watch people's faces, really, because I'm quite a vulgar person, and I've got a very childish sense of humour, and sex makes me laugh, and rude things make me laugh. And it was just that, really. And even though it's not very valuable and it's not a design spectacular, I liked it just because the idea of a 70-year-old woman, she would have been about 70 at that time, I would have thought, late 60s, sitting there and thinking, oh, I know, let's line it with the fabric of goats having sex with people. There's something quite gross but quite fascinating by it. And it's that aspect of Vivienne that I've always liked. That slightly you know, childish, naive outrageousness, because it's not really clever, you know what I mean? But none of her designs, I think, have ever been particularly clever anyway. But she combines them, she has a unique way of doing things, and I kind of like that. Of this coat because it looks like fur and it's actually goat skin, processed. So when you wear it, you often get, and I would really never wear fur, but when you do wear it, you often get people say, "Oh, how could you wear fur?" And there's an interesting story behind this coat in the fact that on the Galapagos Islands, which are sort of islands that have really rare indigenous species. How could you wear fur? And there's an interesting story behind this coat in the fact that on the Galapagos Islands, which are sort of islands that have really rare indigenous species, goats were introduced by man, and it was wiping out all the indigenous species because they were eating all the vegetation. And the goat population reached something like 500,000 on this one little island, and the big tortoises and the birds and the lizards and all the really fantastic rare species were dying because of it. So they had to kill these goats. There was no other way to save these endangered species other than to cull these goats. So a group of designers, and Westwood was one of them, sponsored the cull to help the island's government. It's part of Venezuela, I think, or Colombia, I'm not sure which one. And so they killed the goats, basically, they shot the goats, but in the most humane way possible, because they talked about poisoning them and whatever, and none of it was, you know, ethically right. So the goats were culled, and all the meat went to the mainland, to orphanages and schools and to charities and blah blah. It didn't go to pet food or anything like that. And the pelts were processed and used. So even though it's not strictly ethical, it's probably as ethical as wearing lipstick. I don't think clothes are art, they're just clothes. We say every stain holds a memory, and my clothes are worn, you know, I've always worn my clothes. So, you know, some of them have got stains with good memories, some not so good. I don't mean like rude stains, I mean just wearing them. No, I'm not a fan, and I'm not a collector. I'm just someone who has been lucky enough to indulge themselves a little bit in something that they enjoy.